The FCJ Refugee Center started 33 years ago. And the idea was, when we start, is to give a space for refugee women, refugee claiming women, the ones that they were showing up at the border and they didn't have access to any services at that time. There was not a specific shelter or place where they can stay. And what we did, we start with 2 bedrooms. When the woman comes here, they can feel at home because you have been uprooted. Like I came 34 years ago, pregnant with my husband and my kids, and we didn't have community. And we end up, because we were golden refugees in that time, because the government brought us and gave us a place to stay, services, health, orientation, etc. But when the women were showing up at the border, there was no, only to fill up forms, look for a lawyer, and to go through, to convince someone, which is the Immigration and Refugee Board, that their story was real. Specifically for the women, is a place where they can reunite with other women and start building their own community in Canada. Everything that we do is with the lived experience, but also is a way that you feel free. Many of us, we have been coming because we been suffering oppression, either because domestic violence, because political violence, or even because you are a woman, and what we call the gender violence. And when you come here, what we want that the center becomes, and I think is happening, is that this is a place where you can breathe, to give the experience, but also the tools. What I learned when I came 34 years to share with other women. One beautiful example, a woman from Kenya came with her little one, and she came and fleeing persecution, but was more domestic violence and a very bad situation. And she stayed with us. She helped when she was in one of our houses to organize the woman, very active. And then she was accepted as a refugee, went to school. She was working in the hospital, nursing. This is one example what the FCJ Refugee Center became. It's a place for healing and to flourish. I believe that the women in the circle, we bring so much positive energy that we can make a change. Like every Thursday, we get together in this room, we do embroidering. Now we are doing bags that say for hope. And if you see the examples, it's beautiful, because there is a lady that she has a son, a bird, and a butterfly, and they were her 3 grandchildren. And that's keep her hope. Francisco, we met when we were teenagers. We were 2 dreamers, but he was more adventurous than me, because I grew up in a very conservative family, and he was not conservative family, was more liberal. But what we he and I, we fall in love, but was at the time we're in El Salvador, just to fight for the rights of disabled kids, or the fight for the rights of even to have a food. You were considered communist, or you were considered terrorist. And we started getting involved. He was before me because he was a student leader. Then I joined to start working and bringing all the issues about women and more into solidarity. Because I was coming from a family that when my parents learned that I started getting involved in the popular movement, kicked me out of the country and ended up in Mexico, which was a beautiful, because I could do whatever I want. I'm coming from a faith, but in a popular ground church. That is, I'm Catholic, but where you see what is happening and you need to do the change. We saw each other in a subway station, just by fluke. That was destiny. And that's when we reencountered, and we continue our journey together. And we were, at one point, each one of us, he always called me that I was the love of his life. For me, was my companion. Before we came to Canada, I was working with Down syndrome and looking for the rights of them. Francisco was on focus on the human rights. Like we were in the same world, but different things. I started studying to do murals, art. And when we came, because we have to leave El Salvador, because even though he was missing in El Salvador when we were there, he appears 2 weeks later on because he was a human rights lawyer and he was going where the massacres, and the army took him. They keep him alive because the church, he was working with the church, they came and said they will do a public denounce. And we stay in El Salvador. But what made us to leave El Salvador was because the army and the death squads came and threatened our children. And that's when we said, no, that's it. We can take a risk, but not our children. In Canada, the first years, he was working as a housing worker for homeless people. And I was start doing interpretation with Barbara Slifer Clinic. He was really pushing as a man, pushing that we have to see equal. Because the funding that he was receiving was higher than the one that I received. But we start paying everybody equal. Knowing people from other parts of the world is that you don't need to use violence to change the system. If we do it, speaking and arguing, and to really convincing the people, you can make a change. He and I, we received the Peace Medallion from the YMCA because we were looking how to have a protection, but in a peace. After El Salvador, we were seeing war. There were 75,000 people that died, and they haven't changed the system. In that case, war doesn't change. What war do is that destroy generations, and that's why we were saying. And what we are looking was how we can change the system and helping the new generations to really get to a more equal society. Since he left, was really hard because I never saw myself without him. What gave me was the strength to really start pushing myself, because I felt that Teresa said that you feel comfortable when you sit on the chair and something shake you and you need to start moving. And what I see his death is that make me to see the world in the other way. Now I'm driving, I built the house that we were looking together. It gave me the strength to continue, but to continue in another way. To look that life is short and that I want to do things that really make impact, but that doesn't feel that is a work. If you recognize that you are broken, then you start trying to put together your things with support. You cannot do it alone. When they see in collectively, someone was accepted, someone reunited with the child, give you that, yes, it's possible and I can do it. The recognition of the pain, and I'm telling you because even though Francisco passed away almost 3 years, I'm still grieving. And the recognition with the pain is that how you accept that you are broken and what can help you to put the pieces together. One is that I breathe a lot because I need to breathe instead to shut down. But one of the things I discovered, always when we were in meetings, I was always doing googles and stuff. But then I started discovering even with the Francisco's illness, that inside of me I have something of art. And now I'm using the art. What helped me is that's when make me to focus and give me the peace that I can react and do the activism. Because one of the things is that we always, when something happens, you become very angry, and it's the anger. But when you react, I learned that when you react with angry, you you don't make an impact. But if you breathe and you focus, you can articulate better the way your emotions and your work you do. Where I find peace is when I'm with my friends, because that energy, that vibe gives you a lot. When you do meditation and you help someone else, or you have a colleague with you, or you walk together, you keep also filling up the jar and become a fountain. Because when you are broken, you cannot give. Yes, you need to identify yourself, your inner, that's why I say you need to breathe, dance, because I love dance, put a candle, to have sitting, have a glass of wine because I drink. Peace is when you put it in something, an art, or you share it with someone, or you are surrounded by the woman. I can tell you the beauty things that the women are doing with their bags, and for me is crucial. You see the generations, you see the energy. That's what it is, peace. And it's that when you are surrounded with the community and doing something with a purpose and focus and not fighting, that's when we can make a change.